The stars looked different from the bridge of the Veldari warship. Admiral Zex watched the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. Earth, as the locals called it. Such a simple name for what would soon be the newest addition to the Veldari. Confederation. Report, Zex said. Officer Mira brought up the scan results. The humans remain unaware of our approach. Their primitive detection systems can't see through our cloaking technology. Their weapons are chemical-based projectiles and basic atomic devices. Nothing that can harm our ships. Zex nodded. This would be an easy conquest. The Veldari had studied humans for over 50 years. They fought wars among themselves over land, resources, and beliefs. They were divided into nations that could barely cooperate. Perfect for conquest. Begin the first wave, Zex ordered. Standard. Procedure. Target their military bases and government centers. 500 smaller ships detached from the main fleet. They entered Earth's atmosphere, breaking through the cloud cover above major cities across the planet. In a small town in Wyoming, Dan Miller was fixing his truck when the sky darkened. He looked up and saw what he first thought was a storm cloud. Then he noticed its perfect oval shape and the faint glow around its edges. More shapes appeared behind it. What in the world? Dan whispered. He felt a strange buzzing in his head, like a radio trying to find a signal. The alien ship opened fire on the nearby military base. Bright beams of energy cut through buildings and vehicles. Explosions lit up the morning sky. Dan dropped his wrench. His vision blurred. The buzzing in his head grew louder, forming into words. Danger. Invasion. Activate. Something was happening. To him. His skin felt hot. His heart raced. Memories he never knew he had flooded his mind. Battles fought among stars. Weapons that could destroy planets. Enemies from beyond the darkness of space. In New York City, Kate Wilson was in a subway car when the first ships appeared. The train stopped suddenly. People screamed as the lights went out. Through the windows, they could see buildings collapsing above them. Kate felt dizzy. Her hands began to glow with a soft blue light. The other passengers moved away from her. In fear. What's happening to me? She whispered. Then knowledge filled her mind. She knew what the ships were. She knew who piloted them. She knew how to fight them. Similar scenes played out across the world. Ordinary people transformed as ancient programming activated in their DNA. On the Veldari command ship, Officer Mira's console beeped urgently. Admiral, we have a problem. Our ships report unexpected resistance. Zex frowned. From what? Their military is being destroyed as planned. Not their military, sir. Individuals. Humans showing abilities not in our records. One destroyed a scout ship with... Sir, the report says with energy discharged from his hands. Impossible, Zex said. The screen showed footage from one of their ships. A human female stood in a street filled with rubble. When Veldari soldiers approached her, she raised her hand. The soldiers froze in place, then collapsed. What is this? Zex demanded. Science Officer Lin approached the screen. Sir, we might have missed something in our studies. These abilities weren't present in any of our observations. Because they weren't there before, Mira said quietly. They're awakening, now, because of us. In Washington, D.C., General Paul Harris watched in horror as alien ships destroyed the Pentagon. He had ordered fighter jets to engage, but they were shot down easily. Tanks and missiles did nothing against the invaders' shields. As he was evacuating to a bunker, pain shot through his body. He fell to his knees, gasping for air. His aide tried to help him up but backed away when the general's eyes began to glow. Harris stood slowly. The pain was gone. In its place was strength like he had never felt before, and knowledge of war strategies never taught on Earth. He tapped his radio. Somehow he knew exactly which frequency to use to reach others like him. This is General Harris. To all awakened, report in. Voices answered from across the country, then across the world. Kate Wilson, New York City. Dan Miller, Wyoming. Susan Lopez, Miami. John Baker, Chicago. Hundreds of voices, then thousands. Harris smiled grimly. The enemy has made a terrible mistake. Form into groups. Those with defensive abilities protect civilians. Those with offensive capabilities engage the enemy. We know what to do. And they did know. Somehow they all knew exactly what their new abilities were and how to use them. It was as if they had trained for this moment for centuries. Dan Miller raised his hands toward an alien ship hovering over the burning military base. Energy surged through his body and shot out in a concentrated beam. The ship's shields flickered and failed. It crashed to the ground in flames. In New York, Kate Wilson created a shield of blue energy that protected a group of civilians as they escaped from a collapsing building. When Veldari soldiers approached, she sent a pulse of energy that disabled their weapons. In Chicago, John Baker discovered he could move with incredible speed. He raced through the streets, rescuing people from danger and confusing the alien troops who couldn't track his movements. On the Veldari command ship, panic was spreading. "Admiral, we've lost contact with 30% of the first wave," Officer Mira reported. "The humans are fighting back, effectively." Zek stared at the screen in disbelief. "How is this possible? They're primitives." Science Officer Lin studied the readings from Earth. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the humans. It's as if they've been upgraded. Their neural patterns have completely changed." "Upgraded by whom?" Zex demanded. Lin looked up from her console, fear in her eyes. "There are energy patterns here that match ancient records, patterns associated with the creators." The bridge fell silent. The creators were a legendary race said to have seeded life throughout the galaxy millions of years ago. Most Veldari considered them myths. "Are you suggesting these humans are connected to the creators?" Zex asked. "I'm suggesting, sir, that humans might be weapons created by the creators, dormant until needed, and we just activated them." Zex watched the screens as more of his ships fell from the sky. What had seemed like an easy conquest was turning into a disaster. "All ships, pull back. Retreat to safe distance. We need to reassess," he ordered. As the alien ships withdrew, humans around the world stood in the rubble of their cities, their eyes glowing with ancient power, their minds filled with knowledge never taught to them. General Harris looked up at the retreating ships and spoke words that came from somewhere deep in his transformed DNA. "We are the Guardians. We sleep until needed. We are the gods of war, awakened." The first battle was over, but the war had just begun. 3 days after the first attack, the Veldari ships remained in orbit around Earth. They had pulled back but not left. Everyone knew they would return. General Harris set up a command center in what remained of a military base in Colorado. The structure was mostly underground, protected from the initial attack. People with awakened abilities came from all over the country to join him. Dan Miller drove his truck across 3 states to get there. The roads were empty except for abandoned cars and occasionally groups of scared people heading for the countryside. When he arrived at the base, soldiers with glowing eyes like his checked him before letting him enter. Inside, the base buzzed with activity. Hundreds of awakened humans worked together, using their new abilities in ways that seemed natural despite being impossible days before. Dan was led to a large room where General Harris stood looking at maps displayed on screens around him. "Dan Miller," Harris said without turning. "Wyoming. Energy projection abilities. Good to have you here." "How did you know who I was?" Dan asked. Harris tapped his temple. "We're connected now. All of us. Some can feel it stronger than others." A woman approached them. Dan recognized her somehow, though they had never met. "Kate Wilson," she said, extending her hand. "New York." "The shield maker," Dan said, shaking her hand. "I've seen you. In my mind." Kate nodded. "Same. It's strange, isn't it, like we've trained together for years." General Harris pointed to the largest screen. "The Veldari are regrouping. They'll attack again, but differently this time. They're afraid of us now." "Good," Dan said. "They should be." Harris shook his head. "Fear makes enemies more dangerous. We need to understand what's happening to us if we want to win." A door opened and a slim woman with short gray hair entered. She carried a tablet and wore a lab coat with a name tag that read, "Dr. Susan Lopez." "I might have answers," she said. I was studying genetics before the attack. When I awakened, I knew things about DNA that no human scientist has discovered yet. I've been examining blood samples from several of us. She handed the tablet to Harris. We're not entirely human anymore. Or maybe we're finally what humans were meant to be all along. There's a section of our DNA that was dormant, like a computer program waiting for the right input to run. The aliens triggered it? Kate asked. Yes, Dr. Lopez said. Their technology gives off a specific energy signature. When our bodies detected it, the dormant DNA activated. Who put it there? Dan asked. The creators, a new voice said. Everyone turned. A tall man with dark skin stood in the doorway. He wore simple clothes but carried himself like a king. John Baker, Harris said, from Chicago. Baker nodded and walked toward them. I've been having visions, memories that aren't mine. The creators were an ancient race. They traveled the stars millions of years ago, seeding life on countless planets. Earth was special to them. They put more of themselves into us. Why? Kate asked. Because they were at war, Baker said. A terrible war against something they called the Void. A force that consumed worlds. They were losing. So they created us as a final defense, a sleeping army that would awaken only when needed. Dr. Lopez looked at her data again. That matches what I'm seeing in our DNA. We're not just getting random powers. We're becoming what we need to be to fight this specific enemy. But the Veldari aren't this void thing, Dan said. No, Baker agreed. But they triggered our awakening anyway. The program isn't perfect. It activates when it detects advanced alien technology with hostile intent. The building shook suddenly. Dust fell from the ceiling. They're back, Harris said. On screens around the room, they watched as hundreds of new Veldari ships entered the atmosphere. These were larger than the first wave, with different weapons. They're targeting awakened humans, a communications officer called out. They've figured out how to track our energy signatures. Harris nodded grimly. They're adapting, so must we. He looked at the people around him. We need to organize. Form teams based on ability types. Offensive, defensive, healing, communication. I can help with that, Baker said. In my visions, I've seen how the creators organize their forces. As they spoke, the Veldari attack intensified. Reports came in from around the world of devastating new weapons that could pierce the energy shields some humans had created. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Zex watched the attack from his command ship. Status report, he demanded. Officer Mira checked her displays. The new weapons are effective against their shields. We've neutralized 23% of the identified power signatures. Science Officer Lin looked troubled. Admiral, I'm detecting new energy patterns. The humans are evolving their abilities, adapting to our attacks. Impossible, Zex snapped. No species can evolve that quickly. These can, Lin insisted. Look at these readings. They're communicating on a subatomic level, sharing information faster than any technology we have. They're learning from each encounter. On Earth, Kate stood in the middle of a street in Denver. A Veldari ship fired at her. She raised her hands, creating a blue shield like before, but this time she added a swirling pattern of energy that deflected the beam back at the ship. It exploded in a ball of fire. Across the city, Dan discovered he could focus his energy beams to cut through the improved Veldari shields. Each time he destroyed a ship, he felt knowledge flowing into him, teaching him to be more precise, more powerful. In New York, Baker moved at impossible speeds, evacuating people from targeted buildings. When 3 Veldari soldiers cornered him, he found he could now slow down time around him, moving between their energy blasts to disable them one by one. Back at the command center, Dr. Lopez made an important discovery. General, she called to Harris. The connection between awakened humans is growing stronger. We're forming a network, like a shared mind. If we lean into it, we could coordinate our defense perfectly. Harris closed his eyes, feeling the connections to thousands of awakened humans across the planet. He sent out a single thought: join together. Fight as one. The response was immediate. The chaotic defense became organized. Humans with complementary abilities formed teams without speaking. Those who could create shields protected those with offensive powers. Those who could heal rushed to help the injured. The tide of battle shifted again. Admiral Zex watched in horror as his ships began falling from the sky in greater numbers. "What is happening?" he demanded. "They're coordinating," Lynn said, voice filled with awe. "Moving as a single organism, each human still individual but part of a greater whole. It's beautiful." "It's terrifying," Zex corrected. "Prepare the Sunbreaker weapon." Mira looked up in shock. "Admiral, the Sunbreaker is forbidden except in the most extreme circumstances. The Council isn't here," Zex shouted. "If these humans reach their full potential, they could threaten the entire Confederation. We must stop them now." As the massive weapon began to charge, the network of awakened humans felt the danger. Knowledge flowed through their connected minds, knowledge of the Sunbreaker and how to counter it. The next phase of the war was about to begin. The Sunbreaker was the most powerful weapon in the Veldari arsenal. It gathered energy from nearby stars and focused it into a beam that could crack a planet's crust. Only 3 had ever been built, and they had never been used on an inhabited world. Through their growing mental network, the awakened humans sensed the weapon charging. General Harris called an emergency meeting at the Colorado base. "We have 6 hours before they fire," he said, looking at the faces around him. "We need a plan." Kate Wilson studied the diagrams they had pulled from their shared knowledge. The Sunbreaker targets a single point with massive energy. If we could spread that energy out somehow. "I can help with that," said a new voice. A young woman with red hair walked into the room. "My name is Beth Clark. I was a physics student in California before all this. Now I can see energy patterns like they're solid objects." She pointed at the diagram. "If enough of us with shield abilities work together, we can create a dispersal field. Spread the energy around the planet instead of letting it hit one spot. That would require hundreds of shield makers working in perfect sync," Dan Miller said. "We can do it," Kate replied. "Through the network. I can feel all the others like me right now." General Harris nodded. "Get it organized, but we also need to take the fight to them. As long as that weapon exists, they can keep trying to use it." John Baker stepped forward. "I've been in contact with others who have my speed abilities. We could board their ships if we had a way to get up there." "I think I can help with that," said a quiet man from the back of the room. "Sam Green. I was a pilot before. Now I can... It's hard to explain. I can move things between places. Teleport, I guess you'd call it. Short distances so far, but I'm getting stronger." Dr. Lopez looked up from her tablet. "Sam's ability is evolving faster than most. The network effect is accelerating our development. At this rate, we'll all be much stronger in days, maybe even hours. Then we have our plan," Harris said. "Kate coordinates the shield network. Sam and John lead a strike team to disable the Sunbreaker. Dan and our other offensive types provide support from the ground. We have 6 hours. Let's move." Around the world, shield makers began to position themselves according to Kate's instructions. Through the network, they practiced linking their abilities, creating a web of energy that surrounded the planet. Sam worked with John and 20 others with similar abilities. They gathered on the roof of the base. "I can get us close to their ships," Sam explained, "but not directly inside. Their shields block my sense of what's beyond them." "Get us close enough and we'll handle the rest," John assured him. On the Veldari command ship, Admiral Zex monitored the Sunbreaker's charging process. 4 hours until full power, Officer Mira reported. Science Officer Lynn studied her readings with concern. "Admiral, the humans are positioning themselves in a specific pattern around the planet. They seem to be preparing for our attack." "How could they know about the Sunbreaker?" Zex demanded. "That weapon is classified at the highest level." "I don't know," Lynn admitted. "But they're clearly aware of it and preparing a defense." "Increase security around the weapon," Zex ordered, "and prepare all fighters for combat. If they try anything, I want them stopped." Back on Earth, Dan led a team of energy projectors to a high mountain. From there, they could target the smaller Veldari ships that continued to attack cities. "Remember, we're the distraction," Dan told his team. "Make noise, draw attention, give Sam and John's team their shot." They began firing energy beams into the sky, targeting the Veldari fighters. The aliens responded exactly as hoped, sending more ships to attack the mountain position. Meanwhile, Sam gathered his team in a circle. "Join hands," he instructed. "Focus on me, I'll guide us." The air around them shimmered. The world blurred. Then suddenly they were in space, floating just outside the massive Veldari command ship. The cold vacuum should have killed them instantly, but their awakened abilities protected them, creating bubbles of energy that supplied oxygen and warmth. "Now!" John shouted. They propelled themselves toward the ship, moving so fast they appeared as streaks of light. When they reached the shield, they didn't try to break through it. Instead, they vibrated at the exact frequency needed to pass between the energy waves that formed the barrier. Alarms blared inside the Veldari ship as sensors detected the intruders. "Impossible," Zek shouted. "How did they get through our shields?" "They're heading for the Sunbreaker," Mira reported, panic in her voice. "Release the guard drones," Zex ordered. "All of them." Hundreds of robotic defenders swarmed toward John's team. The humans moved with blinding speed, dodging energy blasts and disabling drones with precise strikes. Those who were hit discovered they could heal almost instantly, another new ability emerging when needed. On Earth, the Veldari attack intensified. Dan's team on the mountain was surrounded, but they held their position, drawing more enemy forces away from the main cities. Kate stood in the center of a field in Kansas, the heart of the SHIELD network. Through her mind, she connected with hundreds of others, guiding them, strengthening them. The shield grew visible from space, a shimmering web of blue energy encircling the planet. Sam teleported from section to section of the Veldari ship, seeking the Sunbreaker. John and the others followed, fighting through waves of defenders. "This way," Sam called, sensing the massive energy signature. They found the weapon in the heart of the ship, a giant crystal surrounded by pulsing machinery. 3 minutes to firing," a Veldari voice announced over the ship's communication system. "How do we stop it?" one of the team asked. John stepped forward. "Together, like the SHIELD network, join minds." They formed a circle around the crystal, linking hands. Energy flowed between them, growing stronger as they connected more deeply with the network that now spanned the planet below. Admiral Zex burst into the weapon chamber with a squad of soldiers. "Stop them," he shouted, but it was too late. The humans released their combined energy into the crystal. Instead of destroying it, they redirected its purpose, changing its fundamental nature at the atomic level. The Sunbreaker's energy surged, but instead of firing down at Earth, it pulsed outward in all directions. The pulse passed harmlessly through the humans, but disrupted every piece of Veldari technology it touched. Throughout the fleet, ships lost power, weapons shut down, shields failed. On the command bridge, Officer Lin watched in awe. "They didn't destroy it," she whispered. "They changed it, made it their own." The pulse expanded further, reaching Earth. Kate felt it pass through the shield network, strengthening it rather than harming it. Throughout the planet, awakened humans felt their abilities grow stronger as the transformed energy washed over them. The first phase of the counterattack was complete. Now the real war would begin. The modified Sunbreaker pulse changed everything. After it washed over Earth, awakened humans found their abilities had grown even stronger. Some developed entirely new powers. Sam Green could now teleport hundreds of people across vast distances. Kate Wilson's shields could stop almost any attack and even block teleportation. Dan Miller could focus his energy beams with such precision that he could disable Veldari technology without harming the aliens themselves. General Harris called a meeting of his leadership team 1 week after the Sunbreaker incident. They gathered in a new underground facility built with their enhanced abilities. "The Veldari fleet is crippled but not destroyed," Harris said. "Their Admiral Zex has requested talks." "Can we trust them?" Kate asked. "No," Dan said flatly. They came to conquer us. They'll try again if we give them the chance. John Baker, who had led the strike team against the Sunbreaker, shook his head. I'm not so sure. When I was on their ship, I saw into some of their minds. They're scared of us now. Most of them want to leave. But will they tell others about us? Asked Dr. Lopez. If word spreads through the galaxy that humans are awakening, more advanced races might come to stop us before we reach our full potential. Sam leaned forward. I've been having more visions since the pulse. The creators left us more than just these abilities. There's a place we need to find, a facility or vault of some kind, hidden deep beneath the Arctic ice. What's there? Harris asked. Knowledge, technology, our heritage, Sam replied. And warnings about what's coming, Harris nodded. Sam, take a team north, find this place. The rest of us will deal with the Veldari. The next day, Harris and Kate teleported to a neutral location, an old aircraft carrier in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Admiral Zex and 2 other Veldari officials were waiting. Zex looked smaller, in person, than he had on screens. His blue skin was pale and his 4 eyes blinked nervously. General Harris, he said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into English. Thank you for agreeing to meet. You didn't leave us much choice when you attacked our world, Harris replied coldly. Zex lowered his head. A mistake. We gravely underestimated your species. We believed you were simple primitives. And now? Kate asked. Now we know what you truly are, Zex said. Weapons of the creators, living gods of war, hidden in plain sight. Harris remained expressionless. What do you want, Admiral? Safe passage, home for my remaining ships and crew, and a promise that you will not follow us to seek revenge. Why should we trust you? Kate asked. Officer Lin, who stood beside Zex, stepped forward. Because we have information you need about the Void. That got their attention. Harris and Kate exchanged a look. What do you know about the Void? Harris asked carefully. It's real, Lin said. Not just a legend. The creators fought it for millennia before they vanished. It consumes everything in its path. Planets, stars, even light itself. And according to our oldest records, it's returning. Meanwhile, Sam's team had reached the Arctic. Using their abilities, they melted through miles of ice until they found it, a vast structure built from a metal not found on Earth. How do we get in? One of the team asked. Sam placed his hand on the smooth surface. It glowed in response to his touch, and a doorway appeared. They entered a cavernous room filled with technology beyond human understanding, yet somehow familiar to their awakened minds. In the center was a holographic projection device. Sam activated it and an image appeared, a tall, elegant being with 6 arms and glowing eyes. Greetings, Guardians, it said in a voice that seemed to speak directly into their minds. If you are receiving this message, then the safeguards have activated. You are awakening to your true purpose. Who are you? Sam asked. I am Zenith, last High Commander of the Creator Defense Force. What you call Earth was our final project, our last hope. We seeded it with life, then accelerated your evolution, building into your genetic code the weapons we needed but could not use ourselves. Why couldn't you use them? Someone asked. Because to use them would have destroyed us, Zenith replied. The powers you are discovering require a specific neural structure, one that our species could not develop naturally. We tried to modify ourselves, but those who underwent the process went mad. So we created you instead, a new species designed from the beginning to channel these energies safely. Back on the carrier, the Veldari were showing Harris and Kate star charts. The Void was last seen in this sector, Officer Lin explained, pointing to a region of space far from Earth. That was 10,000 years ago. But there have been disturbing reports recently of dead zones, areas where all communication suddenly stops, systems where all life simply vanishes overnight. If it's so dangerous, why haven't we heard about it before? Harris asked. Most species in the galaxy don't know about it, Zex admitted. Those who do keep it secret to prevent panic. The Confederation's leadership believes it's just a myth, a story to frighten children. But you don't, Kate observed. I've seen the evidence, Lynn said. Data collected over centuries points to something massive moving through the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. And its trajectory, if I'm calculating correctly, will bring it to your solar system within 50 years. In the Arctic facility, Zenith's hologram continued its message. The void is not a natural phenomenon. It's a weapon created by a species we called the nullifiers. They believed that all consciousness is suffering, and sought to end that suffering by ending all conscious life. They created the void as their ultimate solution, a self-replicating force that breaks down matter at the quantum level, converting it to energy that fuels its expansion. How do we stop it? Sam asked. You are the solution, Zenith said. Every ability that has awakened in your people is designed to combat the void in some way. Energy projection to disrupt its structure, shields to contain it, healing to counter. Its decay effects, speed and teleportation to deploy where needed. The hologram gestured, and the room filled with images of battle, creators fighting alongside early humans against a darkness that seemed to swallow light itself. We fought alongside your ancestors, but there were too few of you then, and your abilities were too weak. We lost. In our final act, we placed the survivors in a dormant state, altered your genetic code to make the abilities stronger, and hid the truth in your collective unconscious. Why make us forget? One of Sam's team asked. Because the abilities come with a price, Zenith said. The more you use them, the more they change you, make you something other than human. We wanted you to live normal lives until you were needed, to be human for as long as possible. The hologram flickered. This facility contains all our knowledge, our technology, everything we learned about the void. Use it wisely. Prepare. The void is patient, but it never stops. And when it comes, you must be ready. The message ended, leaving Sam's team in stunned silence. They now understood what they were and why they existed. The real war, the one they were created for, hadn't even begun. 5 years passed since the Veldari invasion. Earth had changed more than anyone could have imagined. Cities damaged in the attack were rebuilt using creator technology, with buildings that could repair themselves and clean the air around them. The world united under a single council made up of both awakened humans and those who remained unawakened. The Veldari had left, but not before sharing all they knew about the coming threat. Admiral Zex had returned to the Confederation to warn them about the void, though few believed his stories of humans with godlike powers. One spring morning, General Harris stood on the observation deck of Watchpoint Alpha, a massive space station orbiting Earth. From here he could see the defense grid that now surrounded the planet, thousands of satellites built with a mix of human and creator technology. Kate Wilson joined him, looking out at the stars. The deep space sensors are online, she said. If anything approaches from any direction, we'll know. And the training program? Harris asked. Going well. We've awakened another 10,000 volunteers this month. With the controlled exposure method Dr. Lopez developed, we can activate their abilities gradually, making the transition easier. She paused. Though some still struggle with the changes. Harris nodded. Not everyone adapted well to becoming something more than human. The abilities came with a price. The more they were used, the more they changed a person, physically and mentally. Some of the first awakened, those who had fought the Veldari, barely looked human anymore. Their skin glowed with inner light. Their eyes held knowledge no human mind was meant to contain. Any word from Sam's expedition, he asked. They've reached the edge of the dead zone in the Proxima Centauri system. No communications from inside yet. Sam Green had led a mission to investigate the nearest star system showing signs of void activity. With his enhanced teleportation abilities, he could now move entire ships across light years of space. 20 awakened humans with various abilities had gone with him, hoping to observe the void's behavior from a safe distance. Dan Miller entered the observation deck. His appearance had changed the most among them. His skin had a metallic sheen and energy occasionally sparked between his fingers. We've decoded more of the creator archives, he reported. Found something interesting about the void's weaknesses. Tell me, Harris said. It can't consume certain types of energy, specifically the kind some of us generate. Our energy projection abilities aren't just weapons. They're toxic to the void itself. Kate looked thoughtful. That explains why the creators made those abilities so common among the awakened. Almost half of us develop some form of energy projection. There's more, Dan continued. The archives suggest the void isn't just mindless. It has some kind of central intelligence directing it. A nullifier? Harris asked. Maybe. Or something the nullifiers created to control their weapon. Either way, if we could find and target this intelligence... An alarm interrupted them. A communications officer's voice came over the speaker. General Harris, we're receiving a transmission from Sam's team. Emergency protocol. The main screen on the deck activated. Sam's face appeared, his features tense. General, we've made contact with the void. It's not what we expected. Explain, Harris said. It's not just destroying, it's converting, changing matter into something else. And there are beings living within it, transformed. They used to be the inhabitants of this system before the void consumed them. The image flickered, showing glimpses of what Sam was seeing. Dark shapes moved within a swirling black cloud that seemed to eat the light around it. The shapes had once been humanoid but were now twisted, their bodies partly merged with the darkness. The creator records were incomplete. Sam continued. The void doesn't just destroy consciousness. It absorbs, it uses it. These beings are still aware, but they serve the void now. And, he hesitated. And what? Harris pressed. And they recognized us, said they've been waiting for us, called us the abandoned children of the creators. They know what we are, General. The transmission cut off suddenly. Kate turned to Harris, fear in her eyes for the first time since the awakening. If they know about us, they might accelerate their plans. Come for Earth sooner. Then we'll be ready sooner, Harris said firmly. He activated the global communication system. All awakened personnel, Level 1 alert. This is not a drill. Around the world, humans with glowing eyes looked up from whatever they were doing. Through their mental network, they felt Harris's urgency, his determination. Sam's team has made contact with the void, Harris told them. It's aware of us and may be moving faster than we anticipated. All defense preparations are now priority. All training programs accelerated. All research teams on creator technology, full effort. In the Arctic facility, now a bustling research center, Dr. Lopez and her team redoubled their efforts to understand the remaining creator technologies. John Baker and his tactical team reviewed battle simulations, developing strategies against an enemy that could change shape and absorb energy. In orbit, construction crews of awakened humans worked without rest, building more defense platforms and ships designed to carry the fight to the enemy if needed. 2 days later, a flash of energy announced Sam's return. He arrived alone in the middle of the council chamber, his clothes torn, his body showing signs of combat. The rest of my team? Harris asked, already fearing the answer. Gone, Sam said, his voice hollow. The void took them. It's stronger than we thought. Faster, more intelligent. He looked up, his eyes now solid gold with no whites or pupils. But I learned things, saw inside it when it tried to absorb me. What did you see? Kate asked. Its plans, its memories. Sam took a shaky breath. The nullifiers didn't create it. They found it, tried to use it as a weapon, and it consumed them first. It's ancient, older than the creators. And its target? Harris asked. Earth. It remembers the creators, hates them, and it sees us as their legacy, the last thing to destroy before it can rule the galaxy unchallenged. Harris nodded grimly. How long do we have? Less than a year. It's already changing course, moving faster than before. Sam placed a device on the table. I managed to take this from my ship before escaping. It contains scans of the void, its structure, its weaknesses. Kate picked up the device. We'll need to adapt our weapons, our shields. And ourselves, Dan added. We need to awaken more people, push our abilities further. Harris looked at his team. These humans who were becoming something else, something greater and more terrible with each passing day. The creators made us for this moment, he said. We are their legacy, their final answer to the darkness. We've slept as humans, lived as humans, loved as humans. But now we must fully become what we were always meant to be. Around the world, the awakened humans felt his resolve through their connection, and as one they embraced their destiny as the gods of war they were created to be. The ultimate battle for the survival of all conscious life was coming, and humanity would be ready.